The winter storms in Hollow Ridge always came early, but this year the cold felt different, heavier, almost watchful. Emily Carter had lived in the small Montana town for 4 years, long enough to get used to the constant snow and the way the wind howled at night, like something half alive. But lately, the silence between those howls had begun to bother her. It felt dense, full of something she couldn't quite name, as if the cold itself carried an intention. Her wooden cabin sat at the edge of the pine forest, the kind of place people in town call peaceful, though lately it hadn't felt peaceful at all. Emily had been working double shifts at the local medical clinic, and the late-night walks from the car to her cabin door had become the worst part of her routine. Every time she stepped out into the dark, she felt now she knew someone was watching. The feeling started subtly. A shadow glimpsed where it shouldn't be. A sudden quiet in the forest that felt wrong. Footsteps crunching lightly in the snow behind her, though when she turned, she saw only empty trees. She tried to laugh it off at first, blaming exhaustion, the winter gloom, or even her imagination. But the unease didn't go away. It grew heavier each night. On a Thursday evening in early December, Emily arrived home just after 10. Snowflakes drifted in slow spirals under the porch light, and for a moment she froze, not from the cold, but from the sense of being stared at. She scanned the tree line, squinting through the falling snow. Nothing. Just the silent wall of black pines. Inside the cabin, she locked the door, turned up the heat, and tried to shake off the tension. She reheated leftover soup, sat on the couch, and let the quiet hum of the heater settle her nerves. It almost worked until she heard the sound. Tap, tap-a-tap. Her spoon froze halfway to her mouth. The sound came again, soft but deliberate. Tap, tap-a-tap. It was coming from the window behind her. Emily turned slowly, the couch creaking beneath her. The curtains were drawn, but she could see the faintest flicker of movement behind them, like someone standing just on the other side. Her breath caught. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then she forced herself to stand, step by cautious step, until she reached the window. She hesitated, telling herself she'd find a loose branch brushing the glass, or snow slipping down from the roof. Anything mundane, anything explainable. She pulled the curtain aside. Nothing. Just darkness and swirling snow. But something else was there, something she hadn't expected. Footprints. A set of deep, fresh tracks in the snow led right up to the window, then continued around the cabin in a perfect, deliberate circle. Not the random wandering of an animal, not the boot prints of a hiker. A circle, clean, precise, enclosing the cabin like a boundary. Someone had walked around her home. Slowly, intentionally, Emily stepped back from the window, her heart pounding so hard she could feel each beat in her fingertips. She checked the locks again, paced the living room, tried to call a friend, but her phone had no signal, which wasn't unusual in storms like this. She turned on the TV for noise, but the static only made things worse. Eventually, she forced herself into bed, though sleep never came. The next day, she told herself it was likely some local kid trying to scare her, or maybe a prank by the teens who hung out near the gas station. That thought comforted her for exactly 24 hours until the next night. She had barely settled in when the sound returned. Scratch, scratch, scratch. The noise was slow, dragging, and unmistakably close. It wasn't the tapping from before. This was fingernails or claws tracing the length of the window pane. Emily felt her skin go cold. The sound moved from one window to the next, sliding along the glass as if something outside was dragging a hand across every surface, feeling its way around her home. Then it stopped. Silence. Until Emily, her name, whispered. The voice was so soft, so icy. She couldn't tell if it came from outside or somewhere inside the cabin. She stumbled backward, knocking over a lamp, her breath quick and sharp. This time she didn't go to the window. She didn't want to see what might be standing there. After several minutes, she forced herself to crawl to the front door and check the peephole. The porch light flickered in the wind, but she saw nothing. No movement, no figure, only the snow blowing sideways in the darkness. She retreated to the center of the living room and stayed there until the first hint of gray light touched the sky. Only then did she dare open the door. The same circle of footprints was there again. The prints were deeper, clearer, like whoever made them had stood in some spots for minutes at a time, staring in at her. Watching. On the far side of the porch, scrawled where the snow was thinnest, she saw a single word. Soon. Her stomach dropped. The letters were drawn with something sharp, clean lines that cut down to the frozen wood beneath. Emily didn't go to work that day. She couldn't. She sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket, holding a mug of untouched coffee, listening for sounds she didn't want to hear. Every creak of the cabin made her flinch. Every shift in the wind felt like a whisper. She considered calling the sheriff. But what would she say? Someone is walking around my cabin at night. Someone wrote a creepy message in the snow. They'd check the area, find nothing, and tell her to invest in cameras or stronger locks. But she knew deep in her chest, in the part of the mind that recognizes danger before reason does, that this wasn't a person. Not anymore. That night, she kept every light on. She shut all the curtains, locked every window, checked the doors so many times she lost count. But as the hours passed, she felt the same pressure in the air that she had felt all week. A presence. Low, patient, intentional. Near midnight, she heard it again. Not tapping, not scratching. Breathing. Slow, deep, steady, just on the other side of the wall. She covered her mouth, fighting the urge to scream. She didn't move. She didn't blink. Then very softly the whisper came again. Emily. This time it was closer, right outside the window. She wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She wanted to speak, but no sound came out. She stood frozen as the breathing grew heavier, as if something was leaning against the wall, listening to her heartbeat. And then, as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The silence was worse. She waited, trembling, for the next sound. Minutes crawled by. Nothing. When dawn finally came, she found another message in the snow. Not a word this time, just a shape, a tall, thin outline, a figure. Watching. Emily knew then that whatever had circled her cabin wasn't done. It was just getting close. Emily spent the entire day trying to convince herself she was imagining things. But the memory of that whisper, her name spoken in a voice colder than the winter air, stayed lodged in her mind like a thorn she couldn't pull out. She jumped at the sound of her own footsteps on the wooden floor. She kept checking the front door to make sure it was locked, even when she hadn't touched it in hours. Every shadow in the cabin felt too dark, too still, too aware. By nightfall, she was exhausted, yet completely wired. She told herself she wouldn't sleep. She told herself she'd stay awake until sunrise. But the quiet inside the cabin felt suffocating, and her thoughts kept circling the same terrifying idea. If it's watching me, why? What does it want? Around 11, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then steadied. Emily's breath faltered. The storm outside hadn't picked up. The wind was gentle, barely stirring the trees. The power shouldn't have been affected. She moved closer to the lamp beside the couch and kept her hand on the switch, just in case. The next flicker lasted longer. The bulbs dimmed as though something was draining them. For a few seconds, the entire cabin seemed to pulse with that dim, dying glow. Then the lights steadied again. Emily realized she was holding her breath only when her lungs started to burn. She stood quickly and grabbed her phone. No service. She tried the Wi-Fi. Nothing. A sudden awareness crept up her spine. Something wasn't just outside anymore. Something was in the space around her. She heard a sound then not loud, but unmistakable. The softest, slowest creak from the far corner of the living room. A floorboard she knew well, one that only groaned when someone stepped directly on it. Her eyes snapped toward the sound. The corner was dark. The lamp's light couldn't reach there. Emily squinted, trying to make out a shape, but the shadows just seemed to thicken, pulling inward like a slow inhale. She backed away. The shadows expanded. The heater shut off without warning, and the cabin plunged into a cold so sharp it sliced right through her clothes. Her breath fogged instantly, forming small white clouds in front of her mouth. Emily hugged herself and took another step back. Then she heard it again, that breathing. Not heavy, not human, deep and icy, like something inhaling through frozen lungs. It came from the dark corner, rhythmic and slow, as if the thing there had all the time in the world to wait for her. Emily's fingers trembled against her phone. She wanted to run to the door, fling it open, and sprint into the snow. But something kept her rooted to the floor, a mix of terror and the sickening certainty that if she moved too fast, whatever was watching would finally act. The darkness shifted. Something tall uncoiled from the corner, taller than any person she had ever seen. Its form stretched upward, long and narrow, the edges of its silhouette blending with the shadows like smoke. Emily couldn't see a face, but she felt its attention lock onto her. Cold and deliberate, she couldn't breathe. The thing took a single step forward. Something thin and impossibly long slid into the light, a hand, or something like a hand. Its fingers were elongated, jointed too many times, each tip ending in a sharp, black curve. They scraped lightly across the wooden floor as it moved. Then it spoke. The voice wasn't a whisper this time. It was soft, but clear, vibrating through the air like the echo of a memory. "I see you." Completely, Emily stumbled backward, bumping into the edge of the couch. Her knees nearly buckled. She scrambled around it, her heart thundering, and lunged for the front door. She grabbed the knob and twisted it. Didn't move. Locked. She twisted harder. Still locked. Behind her. The thing's breathing grew louder, closer. Emily pounded on the door with her fists, screaming for help, for anyone, though she knew no one lived close enough to hear. She tried the lock again, yanking it so hard her wrist hurt. Then the house fell silent. No breathing. No movement. Just the kind of silence that felt like the world holding its breath. Emily turned slowly, every muscle shaking. The creature was only a few feet away now. In the dim light, she could finally see its head, elongated, featureless except for two round, glowing white eyes that looked carved from ice. They weren't expressive. They didn't blink. They just stared, unbroken and merciless. Emily stepped back until her shoulders hit the door. "Please," she whispered, though she wasn't sure what she was pleading for. "Escape, mercy." Since the creature leaned forward, its height bending unnaturally. Its eyes were inches from hers now, and for a heartbeat she saw something inside them, a depth, an emptiness, a cold hunger that didn't belong in anything living. Its many-jointed fingers rose and hovered just above her face. They didn't touch her. They didn't have to. The cold radiating from them pierced her skin like needles. Now, it whispered, "You belong to the cold." The light in the cabin snapped off. Darkness swallowed everything. Emily's scream lasted only a second before it was cut short, not by anything touching her, but by the cold itself. It wasn't a temperature. It was a force. Her lungs froze mid-breath. Her heartbeat stuttered. The darkness around her thickened, pulling, dragging her inward like an invisible tide. She felt weightless. Then she felt nothing at all. When morning came, the neighbors who rarely came by but noticed her car untouched in the snow approached the cabin. They found the front door slightly ajar, frost lining the frame as if someone had flash frozen it. Inside, the cabin was silent. No footprints. No sign of struggle. No Emily. The only thing left was the thin layer of snow across the floorboards near the couch, where 3 words were neatly carved. She saw me. Outside, the wind moved through the pines in a slow, eerie rhythm, and in the tree line beyond the cabin, where the darkness was still thick despite the morning light, something tall and motionless stood watching the house with 2 pale, unblinking eyes.
Please like and subscribe channel Fear Frequency for more horror stories. Thank you.